Topic 1 in abnormal psychology is an overview, and we will look at the views of abnormal behavior. Encountering instances of abnormal behavior is a common experience for all of us. The definition of abnormal behavior can be elusive since everybody has their own different interpretation of what normal is. Here are some examples for you to think about. A person must wash their hands 500 times before he can leave the house. Normal? Abnormal? You're walking through the grocery store mumbling to yourself about what was on your grocery list that you left at home. Normal? Abnormal? You're in a bar late at night with your friends playing a game of pool, and a girl climbs on the pool table, takes off her shirt, and starts dancing. Normal? Abnormal? These things may be completely normal to you, but totally abnormal to somebody else. That's why the definition of abnormality is so difficult to define. The American Psychiatric Association has a book called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM. It's now in its 5th revision, so we call it the DSM-5. Society has deemed that this book be changed over time because advocate groups have tried to get certain mental illnesses classifications taken out of the book and certain illnesses put in the book. So it has changed over the last 50 years a whole lot. In today's world, when we diagnose somebody, we use the DSM as our guide to do so. But what about centuries ago? Was there abnormal behavior then? Absolutely there was. In the ancient world, there were superstitions that people followed. It was a lot about demonology, and if God is angry at you, gives you this disease. If it doesn't rain on your crops, then the devil is trying to, hold this above your head and can cause you all of these problems. So in ancient Egypt and Greece, the Roman physicians finally decided that they would develop some of these concepts and classify them, which is really where it started. In the 15th and 16th centuries, some scholars thought that they were being possessed by the devil, and the treatment for this was exorcism. So if you look at someone today who's depressed, do you really think that an exorcism would help them to get through that? Probably not. So in the years of the Greek physicians, such as Hippocrates, he is now referred to as the father of modern medicine. He was the first to say, wait a second, the brain can have a disease, and this may be the reason people are acting and behaving and thinking the way that they are. So with the recognition that some people needed special treatment for these disturbances, is what they were called, in the 16th century and the 17th century is when the term asylum came to pass. And these were basic institutions that held a lot of people who had some of these abnormalities and some of these disturbances. However, it came to be basically a warehouse for people who had mental illness. And they were very much maltreated. They weren't fed, they weren't bathed, didn't have socialization. Oftentimes they were chained up. There was a water chair in which someone with a mental illness would be strapped to a chair and dipped in water, and the water was supposed to help heal them. There was the ice bath where they would put someone in the bathtub and pour ice all over them to get the evil and the problems away from their body. That didn't work. And so slowly the warehouses disintegrated, and people started to go to physicians to get some of these issues treated. In the later 19th and 20th century, a term called deinstitutionalization happened, and that is where people who were in these warehouses were basically thrown on the street, and they had no medication, they had no support system, many of them were homeless. And so through deinstitutionalization came day treatment programs. And so in the 60s, 70s, and 80s is when people really started to get help through support groups. And that is one of the big proponents of the DSM. Scientists felt that they needed a classification system to help people determine what their problems were and how to best address them. So in the first topic of abnormal psychology, we're going to cover chapters 1 and 2, a basic overview and a historical view and some contemporary views. It's a very interesting chapter or chapters because you don't realize how good we have it today when you have to read about how poorly people had it a long time ago. So I hope you enjoy this chapter, and I will see you next time.